Hello, Tower Hamlets General Practice. Hey! And welcome to an amazingly sunny bow. So good to see you all together. This in itself, almost whatever else happens throughout the afternoon, is fantastic to get so many people in the room, people who I think perhaps we've not seen before, meeting old friends and new colleagues. This is great in itself. But this afternoon we're going to be doing a whole load of really exciting stuff about the future of general practice. My name is Ian Jackson. I'm the chair of the Practice Managers Forum, and we're really here because of the confusion the Practice Managers Forum had. Back in November, we were at a meeting in Wapping. And over the course of the last two meetings, we'd heard from the CCG about a vision for general practice in the future. We'd heard from the care group about a vision for general practice in the future. At the same time, we'd had a meeting organised by the LMC about a vision for general practice for the future. We were absorbing the second part of the GP Forward View about a vision for general practice for the future. And we were also absorbing the material from the lovely strategic transformation plan, which included a vision for the general practice of the future. So we had lots and lots of vision, but absolutely no clarity whatsoever. Lots of stories, but no single story. So it probably wasn't surprised that we felt confused. And so we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could get together in one room with the people of Tower Hamlets and try and, if you like, understand what that Tower Hamlets vision for general practice in the future would be. Welcome to the room. Yeah? This is the room, and you are the people. And this is the time. So we are now really trying to get to a position where at the end of this afternoon, we will be able to tell the story of what that vision for general practice in Tower Hamlets looks like, but more seriously, what the practical things that every single person in this room can do to make that vision real. So you are hugely welcome. It's great to see so many people, and I hope that you bring with you energy and ambition and creativity, and looking forward to the afternoon. And handing over now to my colleague.
So what a great room. I've been walking around during lunch just smiling from ear to ear and thinking only in Tower Hamlets. Where else do you get a room that looks and feels as the room does today? Like, I get overly emotional about this stuff. Anybody that's heard me speak knows that, but this is a moment right here. I'll start with the boring bit, which are the challenges. Just so you know that there are challenges because we are you. The challenges are stuff that we've heard about. Isabel said to me the other day, Isabel's standing right there, that this recent year has been the toughest that she can remember since having become a GP. That's a tough year. And I think that relationships have felt really stretched because it's been such a tough year. We've got changes of all sorts. We've got a growing population, which means that within 7 years, East London will acquire a population the size of an entire extra borough. If you are a practice of 10,000 patients, that means that every year you will be picking up 500 to 600 new patients. Best of luck. I'm one of those practices. We've got challenges with contracts. If you're PMS, you're in the middle of a pretty meaningful review. If you're APMS, you might be unsure what your future looks like. If you're GMS, the good news is it can only get better. It's not going to get any worse. So money isn't loose in the system right now. With all these extra patients, I wish we could recruit new GPs. We have an awesome advert in the BMJ. It is fantastic. It's snazzy. It's full of bloggy, catchy words. We give free lunches. And we had, I think, Salma, was it 2 applications for a salary GP post? It's really hard to recruit GPs. And guess what? Even if we could, I'm not sure that we'd be able to pay them. So there are issues around recruitment. There are issues around retention. There are issues around demand. And now you'll think, well, this is really depressing, but actually it's anything but depressing, because a burning platform is a great place to start to change things. So in Tower Hamlets, actually, I'm going to say in England, we have about 30% of unmet demand. This is a really big deal for me, because it means that every time 10 patients get an appointment in our surgery, and this is an important fact, I hope you feel it in your stomach, 3 people do not. Every 10 appointments we give, 3 people go to a walk-in center, go to A&E, don't see their GP, DNA, or can't get through on the phone. 3 appointments for every 10 we see. This is not kosher. It's not cool. And even with all this, we're working until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, feeling like we're on a treadmill. Something needs to be done to address this. So we've been going around visiting practices for the quality improvement work stream in Tower Hamlets. And this has filled me with a hope that I thought I'd lost over the past 1.5 years and since the initial success of the Save Our Surgeries campaign. GPs, if you are tired and you are demoralized, guess what? Your support staff is not. They have not had it knocked out of them yet. There is energy, there is enthusiasm, and there is hope in all the people that at the moment are in general practice. I often reflect on the fact that in Tower Hamlets, if you're born on Sydney Street, or if you're born in Bow, you're very unlikely to go for a Fulbright scholarship and apply for an Ivy League college, go off to America to study, go get your MBA at HEC in Paris, and then come back and work in London. You're probably not going to do that. If you're born in Tower Hamlets, chances are you're going to study in Tower Hamlets. You're going to live in Tower Hamlets. You'll get married in Tower Hamlets, and you'll have kids in Tower Hamlets. The great news for us is that the intellectual capacity of this borough is unbelievable. When they say that, you know, there's an intellectual work stream that leaves local areas, no, in Tower Hamlets we hold it. And it's you guys. So I want to make a personal shout out to some of the superheroes that we have met. These people are not the stuff that fairy tales are made of. It's the stuff that Tower Hamlets is made of. So just so you know that these are your friends, Layak, Jason, Susie, at Bethnal Green, at Hartford Health. We've got Afzal at Albion. We've got Saba and Cider at Limehouse. We have the unforgettable Nana at Island Health. I can't see him, but I see his colleagues are sitting up there. Hi, Nana. We have Shamina from Out of Hours. Yay, woo, for Shamina. Everybody knows Shamina, okay. We have Safina from Bethnal Green. We have the whole team of Jubilee Street, Kamal, we've got Yasmin, we've got Rukshana. The list goes on. These people are superheroes. You walk into a practice and they say, what are you about? And within a month, they're measuring, reducing DNAs, improving access, changing workload. These are people in your practices. If you are tired, they are not. And it's not just non-clinical people. Let me do a little shout out to the clinical ones of you. I'm not going to assign you to practices because I think you know where you are. Jenny, I'm going to say this, Jenny Reed, first GP to have kicked this off. So high five to Jenny Reed, the only one I'm going to stop on. Vivian, Ty, Clarice, Tessa, Susanna, Tarek, Aisha, Michelle the HCA, Liz, our nurse, Spyrus, Shyla, Imrul, you guys are doing it. You are changing things. And this means a lot. And that's why you're in this room, because we think that we can keep changing things together. So, Here's the thing about practice managers. We can't keep managing practices in 36 different ways. This is not kosher. We can't be managing rotas and covering reception when reception is down and doing a bit of admin and processing CQRS. This is 10 years ago. Today, you can't be doing that. Your admin staff can do that. You don't need to do that. What you need to do is look at the system, because if you don't understand the system, you won't see the opportunities. The opportunities are not coming through CQRS. The opportunities are coming through all the national initiatives that are giving us a door through which we can walk to make our vision come true. The same point for me is around clinical staff. We can continue to ignore what's happening around us. All we need to do is stop offering appointments. If I go home at 9 o'clock every day, which isn't early, but it's 9 o'clock, and 30% of my demand is unmet, for me that's not cool. Because the people that pay are the patients. And it's not fair that patients in Tower Hamlets will have a more or less rapid response from a GP surgery based on postcode. I am a resident of Tower Hamlets, and that's not cool. We need to start thinking about what does this mean for our patients, and how can we transform these pressures into something that works. So practice managers, our job has changed. GPs, your job has changed. Unfortunately, clinical training is not keeping up to speed with these changes, and we need to make sure that these are included in our schemes and make a case with the deanery. Receptionists, administrators, nurses, HCAs, your job will change because our job has changed, and it will change by filling you with opportunities to do things in a new and exciting way. The other thing we want to do today is talk in a new language. I am a CCG board member, and I cannot bear how we communicate. And I say this anytime I can. I think it doesn't translate, or I think our language isn't clear. I think we say some of the things we do. We don't always say some of the things we don't. I want us to be clear, to use a human being language. I want Sam Everington to be photoshopped into Uncle Sam. I want you to see pictures of us meeting. I want you to know that our food comes from Needus. I want you to know what we change, what we don't, and by how much. And if we don't change, may we say we failed, that's cool, or we didn't have time to change, that's also cool. Isabel's saying hurry up. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. But the people that put this party together, we need friends. The usual suspects need friends. These friends are you. At the moment, if you think about who can make change, you were sent a survey last week and 21% of you think that change can be made by your CCG. Bollocks to that. No. 18 or 15% think that change can be made by the care group. Nuh-uh. We are the CCG. We are the care group. We individuals. Our name, our direct accountability. Nana, Susie, Safa, Sider, Saba, Jenny, Tarek, we are the CCG, and we are the care group. If you're looking around thinking who can make this system better, look at your neighbor. And I hope your neighbor is looking at you. Every 3 months, we're now going to send around a little survey. This is a joint venture between the CCG and the care group that's going to ask you 5 questions about how you feel, because how you feel is paramount. If you feel good, the patients will feel good. We want to act as one. The difference between a provider and a commissioner today is the color of the lanyards we wear. Chuck your badges in the bin today. You are not a provider. You are not a commissioner. You work in Tower Hamlets, and we all do it for the patients. The things that keep us awake, the things we ignore, are all the same. So I guess today's is just a plea to be in that moment. On our best days, we know what matters. On our best day, we make a difference to the patient. On our best day, we are able to celebrate achievements with our network. We are at the start of 1 million best days if we can just put our name to one change, keep our heads up, and know what's happening. So today is the start of that journey. You're going to hear 2 minutes from all the various providers and stakeholders that you're familiar with. These start now. But the plea for today is to please know that if you think the CCG or anybody else can fix it, that person is you. So start thinking about what you'd like to fix and what you'd like to learn. If you're an administrator, a nurse, an HCA, a physician associate, a medical assistant, dude, this is your time. If you're tired of booking appointments, do something different, and let's start today. So hopefully, today can be the start of a plan that will wrap up by the end of the day, but may be meaningful for everybody in this room. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jackie Applebee. I'm chair of the LMC. I don't quite know how I'm going to follow that, really. But what I'm really pleased is that I don't have to climb up onto this stagey thing. So what I wanted to say was really, I've put that slide up there because I just wanted to remind us of the junior doctors last year, and of the sentiment up there. And I don't know if can you all read what it says? It says that there's some junior doctors up on the plinth in Trafalgar Square saying, "I'm not a gynecologist, but I know a hunt when I see one." And I just wanted to remind people that Tower Hamlets is a fantastic place to live and work, and we're all one fantastic community. And we do here, across primary care, have some of the best relationships in the country. And I sort of do lots of nationally type things as well. And they all say, but you know, you can say that, Jackie, you can say we can do this. We can't do that anywhere else because it's not the same as it is in Tower Hamlets. And I think what's really important here that we celebrate that and we do work together to get the best we can. But I think I wanted to put that slide up there just to remind us that we are in times of unprecedented squeeze, and we have to bear that in mind while we sort of talk about all these changes and all these things that we need to do, because I think we can't forget that. So those of us who are able to get up and do what those two junior doctors have done and to shout out and speak truth to power should do so. And on the LMC, I'd like to think we do that. And if you don't know us, and if you feel that we don't represent you, I want you to come and see us today and talk to us, because we do a lot on the LMC. We do quite a bit locally, and I'd like to think we're visible enough, but if we're not, please come and see us today. There's a number of us here. Nirupam's here. I know Naomi and Noreen are both here. I don't know if Archana and Shan are here, and Selva. Yep, great. So please do come and see us. But we do have opportunities. We have opportunities in Tower Hamlets to make changes and to do all the things that Virginia has said. What was I going to say? Yes, about the things that we do. So we'll be at the LMC conference, Naomi and Noreen and I, and we will be fighting for a proper funding formula for general practice to make it equitable. We'll be fighting for proper funding for the NHS in the 6th richest country of the world. We'll be fighting for better premises for general practice. We're fighting London-wide for the NHS property services sort of people who are struggling at the moment to reach agreements with NHS property services. And we've got a national campaign, a London-wide let-up campaign going. So we're sort of fighting on all sorts of fronts. And I think it's important that we continue to do that. So I'm not going to spend too long, because I think, you know, it's enough to say that we've got opportunities to go forward. We need to be aware of the risks as well. And I think we also need to celebrate the fact that an awful lot of things that are being done across the country, we've been doing here in Tower Hamlets for a very long time. We've been working together in networks, these sorts of things. I went to a national meeting again about a month ago, where they had 4 or 5 different examples of people getting up, what they're doing in Birmingham, what they're doing in Richmond, what they're doing up in Leeds. And a lot of that we're doing already, so I think we need to congratulate ourselves for that. So I suppose just to say, come and see us if you don't know us. Speak to us, tell us if we're not doing what you want us to be doing. But actually, we have to fight for Tower Hamlets. We also have to fight for the NHS. And I hope that we do that. So just bear in mind, I just want to bear in mind my lovely slide. Thank you.
So I'm going to absolutely stick to 2 minutes. Not Virginia 2 minutes, or Jackie 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
I just want to say that we're going to. It's wonderful that we're all here. We have an exercise to do later about Edward de Bono's hats. I wear a number of hats. I won't be wearing the black one today, but we've all been tasked to put a slide together which describes what we do and how we feel passionately. So there's no doubt in my mind that being a GP at the moment or working in primary care is a dirty business. It's like wading through treacle or mud on the seashore of the River Thames. someone came into my, well, in fact I don't have, those of you who work with me at the Aberfeldy will know I don't have a room anymore because we're so packed in, but someone came into the room that I was working and took a little snap of me, and that really feels how I felt at that time. But I'm absolutely clear that this afternoon is about trying to capture the opportunities as well as the challenges and making sure that we make the most of the opportunities that we have, because we're in a position at the moment, which some of you will have read in the Health Service Journal last week, where general practice in Tower Hamlets is better than anywhere else in London. Although there are 3 of the or 4 of the East London areas are unfortunately challenging for Jane in the front row, are down in the league table across the country. Tower Hamlets is the beacon of general practice in London and the country as a whole. So what's at the centre for us? And I think we'd all agree that probably at the centre is our patients, and that is Sid, who gave me permission to use his picture, but he's you should never have a favourite patient, but he is one of my favourite patients. And that's a picture of our team at the practice below. That's very important to me as well. I think that's why we're all here today. And at the top right, probably should have been in the middle of the picture, is a bit of work-life balance. I'm sure many of us here struggle with work-life balance, and just to make sure that some of the stuff that comes out of today reflects that and allows us to have a life outside work as in work. And the bottom picture is the organising committee, which many of us have dipped in and out of. Most people have been there for all of it, and really pays tribute to everyone in primary care in Tower Hamlets. So my feeling is, from the care group, with the hat that I'm wearing here today, we've been around for 3 years. We haven't been very good at communicating. We've spent a lot of time trying to communicate and trying to find a way of communicating effectively, but we haven't quite got there yet, and we need your help to know, as I think all organisations do. I think Virginia mentioned the CCG, I think the LMC feel the same way as well. We all want to make sure that we are one, that we're all together in this together. We've had 2 years of a process of procurement for community health services, where we've had Chinese walls between us, and that's been very difficult. We're out of that now. It was a great relief to sign that contract last week and move on. And I think this is really a new spring, a new beginning. So I would really hope that we have a great afternoon. We really need to hear from everyone, and everyone really needs to feel that they own it. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to make the most of the opportunities in a time which is a time of famine rather than of feast. There isn't a great deal of resource around, and we have to make the most of it to sustain general practice for the future and keep what we all hold dear to our heart, which is providing the best possible care for our citizens of Tower Hamlets. Thanks.
Right. Hi there, my name's Simon Hall. I came back I worked in Tower Hamlets some time ago, and I've come back, having had a stint in Waltham Forest and Greenwich, and I'm a bureaucrat-ish. I try not to be too much of a bureaucrat, and I'm very pleased we've got all these horrible processes we had to go through that Phil talked about out the way, because now we can all work together to do what we want to do, which is actually improve the health of the people of Tower Hamlets. So I put a couple of things together that I thought were useful. In the top corner there, you'll see a picture of Tower Hamlets and our governing body. A number of our governing body people are, in fact, most of our governing body people are here. We work for you, and you're our members. Same as actually you're all members of the care group. I wanted to remind us all that my team, the fabulous people that I work with and who work for all of us, we're all working for the people of Tower Hamlets. We work very closely with the local authority in particular to try and get the best for local people, local patients. We're now part of a wider system, both London but also the North East London area. Jane will talk a little bit about that. I came to be Director of Commissioning back in May last year, and Jane then said to me, oh, by the way, I've been asked to go off and run this sustainability and transformation plan stuff. So can you take over for a while as Chief Officer while I go off and do that? So she'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's why I'm the Acting Chief Officer. A lot of the time, there's a picture in the bottom corner there, which is, I don't know whether you can see it, but it's a little cartoon, sadly not drawn by me, but of people running around trying to get to an NHS England finish line with lots of paper. I'm afraid most of my weeks feel a bit like that, which isn't terribly helpful and isn't terribly good, but that's sadly what I have to do, and I know a lot of you are nodding because I'm sure a good deal of your weeks feel a bit like that, and we're going to try and reduce that if we can, because frankly there's too much paperwork, too much bureaucracy, and actually we want to free time up for people to actually do what you're meant to do and what you come to work to do. And I don't come to work to fill in forms for NHS England, but seem to do it far too often. But anyway, hopefully we also keep some of that from all of you. There's a bit there about culture, strategy, vision. I mean, we in the CCG have the sort of the overall responsibility for the health of Tower Hamlets. It's not just the primary care funding we have. We have, you know, the hospital funding, everything, largely speaking, comes through us now. I'm quite glad we've got primary care now properly. But that does also place a burden on us because actually there isn't quite enough funding in that pot. So we have to make decisions, talking to everyone, particularly you, our members, on how we spend that money. And that can be quite difficult sometimes. We have to have, you know, some vision, some longer term strategy, which at the moment is something called accountable care. What we've just done on community health services, I think, is a really good start of building that. But we're going to only do that, and we can only produce the right vision and produce the right, you know, come up with the right services for local people if we all do it together. I think I completely agree with Phil's point. And thank goodness we're actually, I think, now freed from some of that silliness we went through, so we can do that together. That's what that last sort of jigsaw-y thing is about. We couldn't do our job in the CCG if we weren't working in partnership with all the organisations that we work in partnership with. A lot of those are in primary care, and you as our practices are very, very important to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris. Great to see you all. I'm here really to talk a bit about what we do. People ask me quite often, oh, so what do you do? Well, here are my colleagues, wonderful team as we are. You know quite a few of us. And what's really interesting about being a network manager is that we're different things for different people all the time. For some of you, we are the people who chase you to get those extra patients in so that we can get over the line with our NISs. For some of you, we are the people who set up the training and the PLTs and the Tuesday night meetings. For some of you, we sit at board meetings. Oh, we sit at a lot of meetings. Network boards, care group boards, transformation boards, the whole stream of work around Tower Hamlets Together, which Sue's going to have a word about in a while. These are all meetings that we sit at, and we are colleagues with you on that. For some people, we rope you into those really interesting community events that we like to run to make sure that we are engaging with our patients and our local stakeholders, and they're interesting things to be involved in. Some of you we directly employ, so we end up doing your payroll for you. Up here we see our colleagues, and we've given them some specialisms. Most of those specialisms have come through our 1 day a week that we all spend working seconded to the care group. I don't need to go through the list there. You all know Falguni and Dean and Ash and Asma and Yash, looking like a Bollywood star, of course, and Aisha, who can't be here today because she's taking that annual leave that she just couldn't take earlier on in the year, and Kamaljit as well, doing social prescribing. Those are all specialisms, but like so many people out in this audience today, we are also generalists. And so we feel that general practice is a great place to be, and we really are engaging as network managers in the whole systems. We work locally with you in practices, we work locally across localities, and we're also trying to move things on in terms of across the borough as well. We're your links in some ways, so please use us.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sue Hogarth. I'm a public health consultant with Tower Hamlets Together. And for those of you who don't know what Tower Hamlets Together is, hopefully this slide will demonstrate that a bit for you. So it's a partnership of a number of organisations locally. At the top, you've got the GP Care Group. To the left, we've got the CCG. If you go over to the right-hand side, you've got other NHS organisations. We've got our local hospital provider, Barts Health. You've got East London Foundation Trust, who's our mental health provider, also known as ELFT. And last but by no means least, and Simon's already mentioned, we've got Tower Hamlets Council and the community and voluntary sector. So whilst Phil's been making us wear all of our badges today, I do in fact love NHS Tower Hamlets, but I also love all of those organisations equally. And then what does the partnership actually mean practically? Well, currently we're working on a number of projects that are collaborative, that work with some and or all of those organisations. We're developing a set of shared outcomes that we can all work towards, and those are things that patients and residents have told us that are important to them. We're rolling out training to colleagues, and some of you may well have been on the Making Every Contact Count training, as featured in the C-Pen stall outside the building today. And as Phil mentioned, we've recently signed the CHS contract, so that's a collaboration between Barts, ELFT, the GP Care Group for the CCG. So lots of important things happening through the partnership. And why have we got this partnership? Well, as Virginia mentioned, it's the reason that we all come to work in the morning. It's those people in the middle. It's the people that live in Tower Hamlets. We want to basically all work towards keeping them happy and healthy. And people in the middle also wear very different hats. A person might simultaneously be a patient, a client, a carer or a service user by each of our individual organisations. But of course it's the same person, so anything that we can do to break down the barriers between those organisations, all the better really. But why I'm so excited about being here today, I really appreciate all the challenges that general practice faces, but also I want to emphasise that you're not alone. Outside of this room, there's a whole host of organisations that are willing to help and want to help. And to give one example, and again, it goes slightly outside of this chart that I've got up here, I went to the local housing forum. So all of the chief execs from housing associations were there, a great bunch, really enthusiastic, and we were talking about how they could support the health services and how health services could support them. And they're really keen to work much more collaboratively than they currently do. They're really keen to help you with GP registration and all sorts of other things, and they want to practically help. They like to hear about our strategy, but they want something to do. And hopefully what Tower Hamlets Together can do is to provide some of the glue of doing that. So we can be the connection between all of the organisations and help break down those barriers. One of the things that the chief execs talked about was how they don't understand what NHS people are talking about. So maybe we can do some of the translation in some of the language that we use. As you all know, better than lots of other places in the country, we've already got brilliant joint working in Tower Hamlets. We're already building on something that's been around for a long time and works really, really well. But there's always much more that we can do. So thank you for listening. And if you'd like to know more about Tower Hamlets Together, please do look at our website. Please join up to our newsletter. I don't understand Twitter, but we have also got a hashtag, so please do stuff with that as well. And I'll be around for the rest of the day, so it'll be great to come and talk to you. So thank you.
Can I just say,
Am I sitting down?
we have a hashtag. If you have Twitter, take out your phone. It's GP Summit TH. And you can tweet about it, and then everybody in the country can be super inspired, do similar things, be amazing, get energy back. So if you have Twitter, please tweet, and that's it. Jane.
Okay. Right. So thank you very much for inviting me. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jane Milligan. I've worked in Tower Hamlets about 16 and a half years, actually. My day job is the Chief Officer for Tower Hamlets CCG, but as Simon said, I sort of slightly gave him that little role whilst I went on and did something, I suppose, across North East London. So the reason I'm here, really, is to talk a little bit about actually what the future can look like. Unfortunately, I missed that email about having a slide, so I'm really sorry. I could have got my family snaps out and everything. So, but I think what I want to just really sort of say is that you know, and Virginia's already made it and others, but we have such a huge amount to celebrate in Tower Hamlets. And as I say, you can't underestimate the impact that's had in terms of our patient lives, on outcomes, but also in terms of you know, how we work together really collectively across not just general practice and community care, but also across all of the organisations that make up health and care for Tower Hamlets. But to be honest, the problem we've had has been that despite having pretty much the same strategy, so if anyone's, you know, perhaps tucked away that sort of original health and wellbeing strategy that was developed in 2005 and dusted it off and got it out of the cupboard, actually what we're talking about today is what we talked about then. And what we have been is really, really consistent against possibly you know, some fundamental changes that have been happening across health and social care. So despite the reorganisations that happened in 2012 and the pain that we all went through, we've ploughed on. And despite, in fact, now some of the changes that we have, I mean, to be honest, it's no big surprise, everybody. We've been talking about an older population and population growth since certainly when I was at college, which is 30 years ago this year. So in many respects, we've sort of known about our future, but actually we haven't really grasped what we need to do. Some of the transformation we've done has been a bit about reorganising the deck chairs. Now we're in a place, as I say, a time of great financial strain, but also, as I say, some opportunities with that as well. So I think what I want just to say really is that we've also at a time of great permission. And in Tower Hamlets, we've always been really good at bending the rules. And although I know it feels like it's been a hideous bureaucratic process going through the whole community health services procurement, and I know it does feel for practices who've had to go through sort of retendering, but we've actually tried to make that a lot less painful than some of our colleagues elsewhere. But I know you won't believe that, but it is true, it is true. And actually now we do have the permission to continue to bend those rules and actually do what we feel is best for people in Tower Hamlets. And actually that goes back to what Sue was just saying. We need to stop blaming each other. We need to stop blaming the hospital. We need to stop blaming that practice down the road. We need to stop blaming the CCG. We need to stop blaming the community pharmacist or, you know, the local authority. And actually, as Virginia says, actually think about what we can do to make that change. And actually, part of the development of these sort of plans across the sort of wider footprints, the sustainability and transformation plans, does give us permission to do some of that and to actually start to think about how do we break down the silos. Because actually we do need to work much more collaboratively with say everybody who's actually ultimately delivering care for people and their families. And we've got permission to do that. And actually what we're doing in Tower Hamlets is the reason I'm sort of schlepping up the road to Barking and Redbridge and places I've never been to before, frankly, is because actually I think I'm very passionate about the opportunities that holds, but also we can really build on the work we've done in Tower Hamlets. Now, we mustn't dilute that, and it's definitely not about that, but it's actually showcasing the improvements it does make to people's lives. The other, and as I say, you know, I know it's very tough in general practice, but as I say, we can really demonstrate actively about the improvements that have taken place. So I think in terms of the local the context is that we have a time of permission. We're actually trying desperately to address some of the barriers that have been put in place as a result of policy. So actually trying to look at how to address and sort of unpick some of the things like competition. So actually one of the things we're really trying to do at the moment is get our hospitals to start to work together. So instead of, you know, Bart's doing a certain number of hip replacements. I'm just looking at Jackie there. So, I don't know why I came to mind, but we're actually think about actually from across the whole patch. You know, how can that be delivered in one way? So actually, people start to collaborate in a better way, and that goes back to how we then work together. Certainly as a local team. So as I said, part of the community health services contract was very much instead of commissioning or working with the mental health trust to deliver X amount of mental health stuff and the hospital to deliver X amount of stuff and GPs to doing, you know, the sort of individual silos. It's about actually how we deliver outcomes. And we've already got a track record in that in terms of the networks. And I know it felt quite scary at the time when we set up the GP networks, but actually can really demonstrate the proof. And that is the sort of consistent approach we're doing in Tower Hamlets. What we're then trying to do across all of North East London is try and identify areas that we can take some of the strain. So in terms of workforce, actually it is about different training processes and different training approaches. So working with the colleges, which is going to take a long time. So in the meantime, what can we do then collectively about career pathways? How can we really work with hospitals to develop roles that people really want to come and stay? And whether you're a physiotherapist or whether you're a healthcare assistant, actually starting to think about that and getting that work-life balance right as well. So that's something that we can do once across North East London. The other thing, I think you mentioned property. There's fantastic examples of how to do that better across the patch. Newham, for example, local authority are buying out, I think, all of the general practices, all the NHS property services, so they can take the control back. I didn't know, you didn't know that. And that's what we want to do as well. But actually also what we want to do is work with our local housing providers so that when we've got new developments, we're starting to build places for key worker accommodation, or, dare I say it, the old doctors and nurses' homes. So actually when we do get staff to come and work here, and for people who actually are working here now, we can actually provide affordable accommodation. Because that's a real barrier. So, and again, that is difficult to do if you're trying to do that at a borough level. But when you round up people across all 7 boroughs and the City of London and actually have that approach, that is a real opportunity. So I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. I'm not going to say it's going to be some things we will have a go at and probably fail at. But I think actually, in many respects, there is an opportunity, and mainly driven by the fact that because times are lean financially, to do some real proper transformational change as opposed to just deck chair reorganising. So part of today is to get your good ideas about that, and also, as I say, how we can start to think about what is important for you as an individual, for who you work with, but also for ultimately your patients and families, and how we can really, I think, really address some of those barriers that sometimes are on our heads, but actually sometimes do exist, and actually say, right, we can do something different. So that's essentially how I'm going to leave it here. I'm around for questions or people to come and grab me and make sure I see what I look like again, because I know I haven't quite on the patch as much as before. But as I say, so I think today is going to be really exciting in terms of, as you say, trying to really address some of the, as I say, some of those barriers, which I think some of them are in our minds. So we just need to crack through those, don't we, Virginia? Am I handing it to you? Yeah.
So this is where we pause. So just checking in, because I haven't looked at audience faces, but you would be very abnormal if you hadn't started to drift off. Not because we're boring, but because after 40 minutes our attention span starts to wane, and that's totally fine. So I'm just keeping it real and saying you're probably kind of like, okay, the room is warm, it's a bit dark, and you need a break. So what we're going to do now is, you've heard about context, you've heard about why we're in the room. So now we'll stop, we'll have chats, we'll have tea and coffee. And then what we've done is we've taken all the gobbledygook that we've just talked about and made it sound, hopefully, like things that you experience every day. I can't hire, I don't have time, I can't see my kids, like that sort of problem. And we're going to go away in another room and find a way to think about these problems in a way that feels meaningful to you, such that you, with a blonde bob and a red shirt sitting right there, will have a part in shaping a solution, and will put your name against something that might change.